Yeah, the GOAT. Logo threes are back, y'all. Logo threes are back like they never left. Caitlin Clark doing it to him.
What's starting to come out about what really happened inside USA basketball training camp is a lot more revealing than the polished public statements. A reporter named Sabrina later shared detailed behind-the-scenes notes, and her account says Caitlin Clark didn't just show up, blend in, and slowly earn her spot the normal way. She didn't come in trying to fit quietly into an existing pecking order or wait for permission.
Caitlin Clark is on fire. Day 3 of Team USA camp. The girl couldn't miss. It was like throwing a rock in the ocean for Caitlin Clark.
Instead, she walked into the gym and the vibe shifted almost immediately. Not because she was loud, flashy, or trying to prove something with attitude, but because of production. The kind that changes attention, rhythm, and decision-making without anyone needing to announce it.
When she was not playing with Aaliyah Boston, some of the bigs didn't know what to do with her passes. Like there was one time where she passed it to Hamby and Hamby like brought the ball down. It's like, you can't do that. Like this is not, you have to keep it up, right?
Straight up, right.
And this matters because this wasn't a casual run. The gym was full of elite players, Olympic champions, WNBA stars, team leaders, and people who are used to being the main focus everywhere they play. Yet Sabrina said that week became one of the most tense and uneasy stretches that gym had felt in a long time.
Having to see Caitlin like go at scouting players who were, instructed to play at a FIBA level of physicality was interesting considering how long she's been out and the fact that she's still ramping up injury.
Not because people were fighting and not because things were messy. It was tense because the basketball itself started picking who it wanted to revolve around faster than people were ready to accept.
She was just like so happy to be there and like was individually like telling media members how nice it was just to, like talk to them again and like that she was just part of the basketball process.
Clark didn't enter like a celebrity. No big entrance, no obvious attempt to take control, no showy look at me energy. She stepped in, kept it simple, and went straight to work.
And just fun to like see the players in a live game situation again, because you think about like Caitlin hasn't played since July 15th,
Yes.
There are 4 sparks of this camp. Their season ended on September 11th, right? So it's been a long time since any of them have really played competitive basketball.
But within minutes of her being on the floor, the whole room changed. If you were paying attention, you could feel the shift right away.
Also got a quote out of Sue Bird about her being impressed with Caitlin just being engaged while she was out and getting back to being able to play.
When she touched the ball, people got quiet. Drills suddenly looked sharper, faster, and more locked in. And the old order, built on reputation, seniority, and expectation, started to wobble. Not because anyone's past achievements stopped mattering, but because the play began to run smoother through her choices. Spacing looked better when she directed things. The pace lifted when she controlled it. By the final day, one player reportedly left early. Not hurt, not cut, not because of a public argument, but because it was obvious where things were headed, and the game wasn't running through him anymore. That detail is what people can't stop talking about, because it wasn't politics, favoritism, marketing, or media pressure. It was the game shifting its center in real time, and once that happens, you can't talk it away.
A little bit about what Caitlin looked like on the court, how much fun she was having, how important it was, and then someone else, Angel Reese on the other side, talking about Chicago. That was the article I was not expecting.
So now the conversation changes. People aren't really asking if Caitlin Clark belonged at Team USA camp anymore. That part seems settled if you watched how she controlled possessions, managed tempo, and raised the level of the gym.
Here's that Caitlin Clark is truly back healthy. The 3-point shot is back. The logo threes are back. And what I really liked about that second one is that was going right.
The harder question is this. Did her level up close actually intimidate some players, or were they just unprepared for what her everyday standard looks like in person? There's a big gap between knowing someone's reputation and having to deal with them every possession. Highlights don't show what it feels like to defend reads that come a half-second sooner than you expect. Film doesn't fully prepare you for how small the margin for error becomes when someone processes the game that fast. Some players feed off that. Others get shaken by it. And that's what made the camp so telling. When basketball decides who it wants to flow through, it isn't personal, but it also leaves nobody anywhere to hide. You either adjust and find your place inside the new reality, or you're forced to face that the hierarchy you were comfortable with is changing. That week wasn't only about one player shining. It was a system getting exposed live, and everyone in the gym had to choose how to respond. And to understand why it hit so hard, you have to know what these camps are normally like: controlled, professional, organized. Players rotate through drills, build chemistry, and run sets in a way that usually feels steady and predictable. Even with huge talent in the room, there's typically an unspoken rhythm: when to push, when to step back, and how the leadership structure usually works. That rhythm didn't survive Clark showing up. Not because she tried to disrupt anything, but because the floor started revolving around her decisions. Reps felt heavier, like every mistake mattered more. Possessions felt quicker and cleaner. People stopped talking when she got the ball, not because they were told to, but because they naturally locked in. Coaches leaned forward without realizing it. Players concentrated harder so they wouldn't miss a read. Sabrina described it like Clark made the team in the truest way, by proving, possession after possession, that everything worked better when the game ran through her. That's a tough thing to watch if you're used to the game running through you. And by the end of camp, it was impossible to ignore. Clark didn't slow down to make things comfortable. She stayed at full speed, controlled the sessions, and according to those accounts, someone in the gym couldn't handle watching the order shift right in front of them. Paige Bueckers was there for all of it, and multiple observers said she understood what was happening quickly. When Clark ran the offense, the pace rose. Spacing improved naturally. The ball got to people earlier and cleaner, right where they could score. Players who looked slightly out of sync earlier suddenly looked sharper, like the game became easier to read. Coaches stopped casually watching and started taking real notes and adjusting details on the fly. This wasn't just a talented guard calling plays. It was someone operating at a different mental speed, seeing the next step before anyone else and acting without hesitation. Paige recognized it, didn't fight it, and matched the level. That's what elite basketball IQ looks like when it runs into another elite mind. One great player sees what's happening, accepts the truth fast, and levels up with it. Angel Reese, though, reportedly experienced the week in a totally different way. For her, the shift didn't feel energizing, it felt disorienting. Not because she isn't talented, and not because she didn't earn her place, but because the flow stopped being built around what she does best. The ball didn't arrive the same way. The rhythm didn't tilt toward her touches. The offense didn't pause to create your turn moments. It kept moving, and it moved past her. As the days went on, that reality got harder and harder to ignore. And that contrast is what made the atmosphere uncomfortable. Not loud drama, not open hostility, just the quiet pressure that shows up when the truth is right in front of everyone. Because once the game chooses its hub, every other player has to decide if they're willing to adjust. Some accept it and improve. Others struggle with losing control. That push and pull, more than any single drill or scrimmage, is what reportedly made this camp feel different from usual. At first it wasn't anger. It was something colder, feeling less central. Not because she couldn't play or didn't belong, but because possessions stopped running through her. The ball didn't find her in the same spots. The offense didn't bend toward her strengths. Rep after rep, the influence she was used to having wasn't showing up the same way. In huddles, breakdowns, and quiet coach conversations, Clark became the focal point, not because she demanded it, but because the impact kept forcing everyone to acknowledge it. Angel noticed. Her body language reportedly showed it. Day by day, frustration built, even though she kept getting minutes and chances. But the game had shifted to a new structure. The tension peaked during a closed scrimmage. No cameras, no crowd, just competition. Clark ran point like someone who had been there for years. Paige spaced the floor perfectly. The ball moved with purpose. Passes hit exactly where they needed to. The offense looked smooth and connected. Angel tried to impose herself with physicality and emotion, but the game didn't slow down to match that style. It sped up, got cleaner, and possession by possession she fell further out of the rhythm, not because anyone banned her, but because the pace reduced her impact. That was when the new order became obvious. It wasn't a personal feud. It was a system showing who it worked best through. Coaches saw it, and notes were taken. Angel saw it too, live, and it became clear the game wasn't choosing her as the center. Sabrina also pointed out something key about Clark's style. Yes, the deep stepbacks were there. Yes, the risky passes were there. But what stood out most was precision. She doesn't just pass to open teammates. She places the ball exactly where it's easiest to finish, at exactly the right moment. Some bigs weren't ready for that speed and placement. One player reportedly brought the ball down instead of keeping it high, and the whole action broke instantly. That's the kind of mistake that shows you're not fully prepared for elite-level playmaking. And Clark demands readiness without ever saying a word. The camp also included higher-level physicality than many players are used to, with scout players told to play more aggressively. Clark didn't flinch. She absorbed contact, accepted the intensity, and still controlled the game. That alone answered a lot of doubts people had about her toughness and ability to adjust. By the final day, the gym reportedly felt unusually quiet. Execution was clean. Clark directed things like a true floor general, calling changes, running actions, finishing plays with confidence. Angel had fewer meaningful touches late, not as a punishment, but because of how the flow naturally worked. When it ended, the room already knew what it meant. Angel didn't wait around for formal explanations. She didn't make it a scene. She left, and the gym went still. Coaches looked at each other. Players avoided eye contact. Everyone understood what had just played out. This wasn't hidden ego drama. It was basketball delivering a blunt answer. When elite players share the floor, the game decides what works, what doesn't, and who the offense should run through. Reputation can't override that. And it adds context that Angel has openly talked about being unhappy at times in her current WNBA situation and wanting a role where her strengths are used more directly and consistently. That matters because it helps explain why this week may have hit differently. Team USA camp isn't just another run, it's a place with nowhere to hide. And the biggest reality from that camp was simple. The focal point wasn't up for debate. The offense didn't revolve around volume or spotlight. It revolved around timing, decisions, and control. The ball kept finding Caitlin Clark because it was the smartest path. The pace followed her because the game worked better that way. Nobody had to force it. Nobody had to vote on it. It happened possession by possession, because that's what winning basketball demanded. That's the hardest truth to accept. Clark didn't ask for attention. She didn't demand touches. She earned the center every session by making the right reads, delivering the ball on time, and elevating the players around her. The game chose her because it functioned better. And at that level, there are only two real options: adapt to the reality the game creates and find new ways to matter inside it, or decide this environment isn't for you. There's no middle lane. You can't force the game backward. And according to the story being told, Angel chose to leave, she chose to leave.